At the age of 20, Uncle Jake joined the Civilian Conservation Corps, or the CCC as it was known. The CCC was a major part of FDR's New Deal, and it provided unskilled manual labor jobs related to the conservation and development of natural resources in rural lands owned by federal, state, and local governments. This public work relief program operated from 1933 to 1942 in the United States for unemployed, unmarried men. Originally for young men ages 18 to 25, it was eventually expanded to ages 17 to 28. Uncle Jake joined the Civilian Conservation Corps in May of 1933 and worked at various sites both in Texas and Arizona. These included Camp Bullis, Texas, Treasure Park, Arizona, and Noon Creek, Arizona. The jobs that he helped to do included clerical work and forestry work, building bridges, carpentry, and other duties. The pictures that you're seeing now are actual photos that Uncle Jake took while he was working in Arizona for the Civilian Conservation Corps. The USS LST 348 was constructed at the Norfolk Naval Yard in Norfolk, Virginia, beginning on November 10, 1942. The ship was launched on February 7, 1943, and commissioned 2 days later. As you see this photo, this is the only photo of the USS LST 348 that I have been able to locate. And so it has served as my reference photo for the build that we are currently doing. Okay, so we've gotten some of the first steps done on the hull. The directions actually did not call for assembling the deck to the hull first, but I figured that since I'm going to be primering all of this stuff together, it would probably be best to go ahead and put the deck on. And so we did go ahead and glue the deck to the hull, and so you can see here. And then what I found as I glued it down is that we had a pretty substantial seam line where the hull and the deck meet, and so I did have to use some of the Tamiya white putty to seal that seam, and I hope I didn't get a little too happy with the putty, but this is my first time to use this. This is the Tamiya white putty, and what I'm finding is that a little bit really goes a long way. But we'll work with what we've got here, and I think for the most part I've gotten the seams sealed. So let me just pick it up. See there, we had quite a bit on this side. Maybe not quite a bit as bad of a seam on the other side here. I guess that would be the starboard side. But anyway, I will, once I get primer on it, I should be able to see where any spots I may have missed, and any things that may need a little bit of touch up. You can see where we've had to sand quite a bit on the deck. There were several ejector pin marks, big ones, on the deck, and so we had to try to sand those out. Those still need a little bit of probably smoothing before we put the primer on, and you can see especially this one here had quite a, it actually had a divot in the deck, and so we filled that with the putty. I can't feel a divot anymore. It's sanded fairly smooth, but again, once we get it primered, I may find that that it needs a little bit more work. And then, of course, these you would almost think they were ejector pin marks, but they're not. This is where various parts go onto the deck. And so, anyway, that's it for now. So we'll move on to the next part. Okay, we see here that we have got got all of the seams filled, and we got it into primer. It's not perfect. The seams are not perfect. It's my first time working with the Tamiya putty, but overall I'm pretty satisfied. I don't really want it to look brand new anyway. As you'll hear from a description of this ship in particular, it was not a pretty sight due to all of the action that it saw in the Mediterranean. So we really didn't want it to look absolutely perfect anyway. So turn it over here on the bottom. You can see here there was actually a hole here that had to be filled. That is left over. Evidently this kit was released a few times as a motorized kit, and so that is the reason. And the hole, they just left the hole there when they released it as a non-motorized kit. So we filled that in. That won't be visible once because it's the way it's going to be displayed. So not too worried about that either. It didn't fill perfectly, but it's not that big of a deal as far as I'm concerned. And we got the rudders on here, and so our next step then will be to go ahead and tape it off, tape off the bottom here to apply our hull red to the bottom of the ship, and so that is going to be the next step. The reference picture that I'm using is this one, and I'm not sure if it comes through in this photo or not, but if you notice, it does not appear to be a black boot stripe or boot line, as it is also called. So I will not be putting the black stripe on there. It will just be gray and then red on the bottom. Did finally find the medium gray. Big thanks to Charlie Mack for giving me the proper number for the paint that I needed. So this is the medium gray that will go on the top, on the hull and the deck. And then we also I also have gotten my decals printed, and so I need to seal those, put the decal bonder on them so that they'll be ready to apply when that comes, or when it comes time for that. So next step is to paint the red on the bottom. Okay, so this will be the last part of the update for this week. As you can see, we do have the red on the bottom of the ship. That is the hull red. And so let me just spin it here a couple of different ways so you can see. And we also got the propellers on. Painted those brass color. See if I can get this turned around so maybe you can see a little bit better. If this thing will focus. Anyway, there is their propellers, and we got as I said, the red is on the hull. on the bottom of the hull. So that part is done. Also added these two pieces up here across the top. And again, they're not exactly pretty, but for this ship, we're not exactly looking for pretty. So switch this back around, see the other side. Got those rails on, or whatever those are, I'm not really sure. But there it is. So next will be to get the gray on the top part and on the deck, and start putting some of the deck pieces on. So that will be part of our update for next week. So as you can see, it's coming along slowly, but surely. There are some parts of it that I wish looked better than they did, but we're not going to let that worry us too much. So as I mentioned in the last part of the video, for the next update, we'll be working on getting the gray onto the upper part of the hull and onto the deck, and then start to get some of the deck pieces put together, which we've already started, but that'll be for the next update. And since this video is being posted on Veterans Day, I want to extend a special thank you to all of my subscribers and all of those who are watching who are veterans. I want to just extend a big thank you for the service that you've given to our country to help keep us free, for us to be able to do things like we're doing. And so thank you, can't say it enough, thank you, thank you. That's going to be it for now. We'll try to get the next update out next week. Until then, everybody take care. Bye.